Hi once again, and in this particular video I want to show you some other interesting ways that you can create your pattern background for your coloring book. Okay, so in the earlier video I showed you how to create this very simple background, but then you want to sort of like create something even more creative. Now in this video I'm going to be showing you how you can add even more patterns and even overlap it without having those messy kind of intersections that we had in the previous lesson. And so let's go ahead to turn off this layer. The first step again is to create a new layer. Now after creating a new layer, you want to switch on to your brush tool, which can be done by clicking this button or your B. Okay, so this was the brush tool that we used, the pattern that we used earlier. So let's go ahead and still use it for this particular book. Okay, so I want to create it a little bit bigger. Okay, now we have these on the background. Now when you're doing yours, you have to make sure that it's more precise. Okay, you can see that this is not exactly at the center. This side is getting cut off more than this particular side of the pattern. Okay, so you want to make sure that it is a little bit more centralized visually. Now after doing this, I want to add some even more interesting pattern in the background. Okay, so I want that to be just underneath this particular pattern. Now you notice that if I click on it, it's going to create that messy intersection, which is what I don't want. So what you're going to do is to create a new layer. Now we want it under it, so you might want to click on the layer below it before clicking a new layer. So the new layer is just directly underneath this. Now you notice that if I go ahead and click on this, we still have that messy background. Okay, now if I go ahead and click on this side as well, we will still have that very messy background. So how do we solve this problem? So the first thing to do, turn off the layer beneath. So we have this top layer. Now what you will want to do for this is to make the parts inside the mandala to be solid. So currently it is transparent and we can see through it, which is creating that messy intersection. So you'd go ahead to create a rectangle or just about any shape that you can create just under the mandala. Now it will take by default the color of the foreground, which is this dark color, and it's the same as the color of the mandala, so you are currently not seeing anything. Now click on this eye icon of the rectangle and change the color to white. Okay, since our book is of white background. Now after doing this, okay, change this to move tool and then merge the two layers. Right click, select the two layers together using either shift or control, and then click on merge layers. Now that the layer is merged, you can see that if I turn on the layer underneath, you can no longer see it because there's a solid white background underneath it. So what you want to do, turn off this layer again and select the white outer part of the mandala. So click on you can either activate the quick selection tool using W or coming right to this tool here. So I'm going to be clicking or pressing W on my keyboard and press here and here, and I believe that we are almost done. So you want to create you want to select all the whiter outer part of the flower. So I've selected that, and then I'm going to press the delete button on my keyboard, and once I do that, that particular part is deleted. Now you might not notice anything, and why is that? Because the background is white. Okay, the background of this flower is white. Also the solid background of our canvas is also white. So you can press Ctrl D to undo the selection, and by the time you turn on these flowers, you can see that it's creating something more interesting. Now we don't have that messy intersection, and you can see how our coloring book is turning out nice. So of course you can go ahead to create even more background by selecting some maybe other kind of like pattern for your background for the other two edges. So if you want to do this, always ensure that you are on the lower background. Okay, if you're painting this on this foreground, you're going to be creating the messy intersection once again. So you want to make sure that you are on the lower background, and by the time you click this and also click this. However, if you're on the lower background, make sure that it's not intersecting with some pattern that is also on the same layer. For example, if I click like this, you're going to have this very messy intersection around here. So you don't want that. So you can just zoom out, undo the process, and be careful not to intersect with that part, and you're fine. So you can see how we have this entire page filled with the background mandala. Okay, so we have been able to learn how to do this kind of interesting background by mixing the mandala flowers without having them giving us a messy intersection. And in the next video, I'm going to still show you some other interesting ways that you can combine this technique to even create something more interesting.